Hello, everyone, and welcome back once again to SPIRITISMx 2021, and in fact, to the very last block of this event. Now, we have had three exceptional blocks so far, and we still have one more to go. And if you did not watch the previous parts yet, you can find blocks 1, 2, and 3 on the Kardec Group YouTube channel. So let's see what you have let's see what we have lined up for you right now. Let me bring that back up. Here we go. So we will have with us Anahy Fonseca from Brazil, Roberto Watanabe from Brazil, Dan Assisi from America, and Natasha Aragão from the UK. And don't forget that we will have a roundtable with our guests at the end of all the talks. Now, as a reminder, we would love to have all of you interacting with us during the event. So please send us a hey, howdy, aloha, or any other greeting that you want to via the live chat, and we'll try and get back to you during the event. And of course, please try to like and subscribe to this event, to this channel. Like and subscribe to the Kardec Group channel as well, and both our YouTube and our Facebook pages. And remember to show a bit of love to our streaming partners on YouTube as well. So let's just jump straight in there with the very first talk. And that is going to be with Anahy Fonseca, who will be talking about mediumship and mental health. So Anahy Fonseca is a psychiatrist and Jungian analyst from Porto Alegre in Brazil. She is the coordinator and founding member of the Department of Psychiatry and Spirituality of the Psychiatric Association of Rio Grande do Sul, Brazil, and coordinator of the Department of Analytical Psychology and Spirituality of the Brazilian Jungian Association. She is a member of the section of Religion, Spirituality and Psychiatry of the World Psychiatric Association and member of the Medical Spiritist Association of Rio Grande do Sul as well. So, ladies and gentlemen, with pleasure, I hand you over now to Anahy. Anahy, over to you.
Hello, everybody. Hello, everybody. I'm very happy to be here with you, and happy to have been invited to this great event. So I'm going to be talking about mediumship and mental health. And as a fellow Japanese colleague said recently in an article, her name is Megumi Yama. The development of medicine and technology has been remarkable and has brought us incredible benefits. Nevertheless, there are times in which we cannot help but realize, as in these pandemic days, that death is inevitable for all of us. So, why mediumship and mental health? What does one have to do with the other? So let's see a little bit of this. I brought you an image of the movie Winter's Tale. If you guys haven't seen it yet, I really recommend the movie. And in the movie, in the end, it's not spoiler alert, but I mean, this is really a great talk in the end of the movie. So I wanted to share with you. What if we are all unique and the universe loves us all equally, so much so that it bends over backwards across the centuries for each and every one of us? And sometimes we are just lucky enough to see it. No life is more important than another, and nothing has been without purpose. Nothing. No, what if we are all part of a great pattern that we may someday understand? And one day, when we are alone and capable of doing what we were supposed to do by ourselves, we get to rise up and reunite with those we have loved the most forever embraced. So this is just for us to start thinking together about this exciting issue. So the definition of mediumship, just for us to remember, is the practice of mediating communication between spirits of the dead and living human beings, right? So, but why? Does it make us mentally healthier? So I brought a small case report. It's not small, actually, it's very big. It has been published, and it's a kind of complex. But for here, I made it small so we can think together. I call it the sacred medallion. So M is the name of the patient, was a middle-aged housewife with important artistic gifts, married, two children, studying at university. The eldest son with clinical presentation of depression and anxiety post-use of cannabis. The son's behavior became progressively aggressive towards his mother, including death threats. M's had feelings of fear, humiliation, helplessness, and concern for her son. Upon starting psychotherapy, M was frail, insecure as how to act, and tearful. She felt diminished as a mother and very guilty. M had been a very cheerful and sensitive young woman. She enjoyed poetry, contact with nature, arts, and music. Her mother had become an orphan at age 3 and had been raised in a boarding school run by nuns. She was much devoted to St. Mary. Since M was a child, there had happened to her phenomena that she couldn't explain. And then she has this dream. I am in my apartment where a party or something of the sort is taking place. Music is playing and everyone seems happy. You then arrive. My mother hugs you and begins showing you the place. It makes me glad because I have a small child in my arms, my son. In the next scene, I see my mother hugging you again. We are Brazilians, guys, just remember that. And to my surprise, pulling out a chain necklace that was under your blouse and showing me a medallion with an image of St. Mary. My mother was smiling in a way she seldomly did in life. I think it's funny because I've never seen you with a St. Mary medallion. At this point, I wake up with a great feeling of wellness. And I'm also a Jungian analyst, so I have asked her to draw the dream. And this is the drawing of the dream. This is me with the medallion, her mother, and she's a middle-aged housewife, and she represents herself as a young woman, and okay. And at this point, we were talking about before the drawing of the dream, we were talking about the dream. And at that point, I really had a medallion under my blouse. So spontaneously, I just took the medallion and showed to her. And she got so pale because I said, oh, like this. It was very spontaneous. I was not thinking about that at that point. And she said, no, it's not like this. It is this one. Okay. So this is the medallion. And I will say a little bit of the medallion story. Okay, so it's a little clearer for you. So the therapist's grandmother, deceased for 30 years, had been, at that point, had been a very strong woman who, according to family accounts, had built her house with her own hands. She was much devoted to St. Mary, and on her last years of life, she wore on her neck a medallion in a chain with her image, St. Mary's image on one side and the Sacred Heart on the other. Around 10 years after her passing, the therapist's sister, after their father's death, had moved to London for her doctor's degree in architecture and had started to occasionally frequent a spiritualist church some friends had mentioned. The patient's dream occurs approximately 20 years after the session was recorded in the church. So I will ask Adam to show you guys the tape and the small movie we made with this part of the channeling.
She used to wear sometimes, she's pointing here abroad because she couldn't handle it. She's looking somewhat here in the body of that rose. She would have liked you to. Will you find out, please? Yeah, because she used to hold her hand over it. You know, it was very precious to her. And I feel this porch would be a lovely connection between you and your grandmother. Okay? It's like you touch it and you connect to her. It's got her energy on it. Because she got a lot of space from it. You know, from that porch, what it symbolized, the symbol of it. You know, and this is why she's saying it lies in the chateau or in a box. She said somebody got it, it's in the box. Has your aunt got it? I think your aunt, she's talking about your aunt. Yeah, but this time, if she's not wearing it, suggest perhaps she say, could I have it? You know, do you see, or leave it to me when you go type of thing. You know, sometimes people might say have it, but I want to broach the subject and let me know. It's because it's, I mean, there's a lot of, she was a very strong woman, mentally very strong. And again, you have this mental discipline and that strength.
So this we have to digitalize. It has 30 years, and I thank you very much, people from Kardec Group, for making it better for all of you to be able to listen to it. So some reflections before I end my presentation at this point. So there is the literal and the symbolic, because we are spirits incarnated. So we have a psyche, we have a soul, we have an ego, right? But we are also at the same time spirits, okay? So that's a reflection I would like to think with you, to make with you. So seeing the dead is as old as death itself. Whether in a dream, a vision, in the corner of the room, or in the corner of the eye, the dead return. Encounters are often meaningful, moving, and life-altering, and require something on both sides, which is exactly the mystery of what they look like in the first instance. If we understand that the dead literally exist beyond the symbolic nature of their appearance, what do we learn about them, the unconscious, and how do we live with both? So these kind of questions are in the book by Stephanie Stephens from 2020. And the title is C.G. Jung and the Dead, Visions, Active Imagination, and the Unconscious Terrain. So Anne understood that her mother in the dream was showing her a way of strength and of recognition with her mother, of reconnection with her motherly feelings and with her spirituality. So we discuss very quickly here, but just for us to think together, that the archetypal images, the mother, Saint Mary, and everything that is sacred for us in motherhood. So the archetypal images and the synchronistic phenomena. So at that point, I was using a medallion that my sister had known about, because none of us had any idea of this medallion at that point, through a medium, a German medium in London, in a spiritualist church in London, uh, channeling our grandmother and telling exactly where the medallion was and how to find it. So many years after this session, then my sister gave it to me. She thought, she had an intuition that I had to be with the medallion, had to stay with the medallion. And something like 20 years after that, this patient had this dream. And in this particular day, I was wearing the medallion, which I never did before. So this is a lot of synchronistic events together, collapsed at that point. So we say that the archetypal images and the synchronistic phenomena point towards a spiritual world that transcends consciousness. This is from the psychological point of view. So now I bring to you Allan Kardec's Spirit's book. So now in question number 76, he asked the spirits, how can we define spirits? And the spirits say, we can say that spirits are the intelligent beings of creation, intelligent beings of creation. They populate the universe beyond the material world. And in question number 84, do spirits encompass a separate world beyond the one we see? And they answer, yes, the world of spirits or incorporeal intelligence. We, from the psychological point of view, as from Jungian's analytical psychology and complex psychology, we talk about the transcendent dimension of the psyche, in very deeply in the unconscious, where things happen, as you were able to see in the patient's dream. So, in question 85, which of the two is the main one in the order of things, the spirit world or the corporeal world? And the spirit says, the spirit world. It pre-exists and outlasts everything else. It's very important to pay attention and to reflect upon this kind of answers. It pre-exists and outlasts everything else. And in question 400, during sleep, does the soul rest like the body? And the spirits say, no, the spirit is never inactive. During sleep, the bonds that link him to body are loosened, and the spirit travels through space and enters into a more direct connection with other spirits. So you can see we have our conscious, we have our conscious mind, the one that is talking to you now, my ego, and the one in you that is listening to me. We have all our complex and our, like Freud said, our personal unconscious, where we have this symbolic life, but we do have a deeper unconscious where we are able to connect with the transcendent and with the spirits. That's why mediumship we have to develop, to educate, and we have to discipline our mediumship capacity to be able to connect with the spirits and to so that the ego is lessened. It's a little less paying attention to everything else and not this channeling. Okay, so we have to discipline very much the ego, and we have to discipline our mediumship. So, and now finishing my presentation, this is a small, it's from Carl Jung, a small sentence from his collective works. The belief in immortality bestows upon life a tranquil fluidity towards the future, indispensable to avoid stagnations and setbacks. from the psychological point of view, it pertains to emotional experiences. To make one's own experiences is a charisma no other human art can obtain by force. To hand oneself over without reservations is the only hope to obtain it. And the last slide that I want to show to you, it's by Ellen Graves. I love this book and recommend strongly The Wheel of Eternity. Actually, I bought it in London. And she says at some point, life progresses. Evolution advances on all levels. The wider and more complete the expansion of tolerance, understanding, and forgiveness, the stronger and more powerful will be the race of spiritual progress that will intensify man's evolution. The greater the spread of spiritual knowledge, the faster humanity will be enlightened and will rise to harmony and peace. So that's what I wanted very much to share with you, and saying that it's very important for us to educate our mediumship senses, and we certainly will be healthier mentally. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Anahy, for those wonderful reflections. I'll pop you backstage and hopefully bring you back later for the round table. So thank you once again for all that wonderful information about mediumship and mental health. So if you have any questions for Anahy, please send them in the live chat. And we already have quite a few people saying hello and already a couple of questions coming through. So where we're going next, we're going straight to our next talk already. And we are going to go to talk with Roberto Watanabe, who will be talking about the beauty of uniqueness and multiplicity. Roberto Watanabe is from Sao Paulo in Brazil and is graduated in philosophy and business administration with a master's in with business administration and has training in psychoanalysis. Roberto is the president of the Spiritist Federation of the state of Sao Paulo in Brazil and is a writer for the magazine O Semeador, the Sower, which is published by that same federation. Ladies and gentlemen, with pleasure, I now hand you over to Roberto Watanabe.
Thank you, Adam. Hello, everybody. I'm very glad to be here with you. And I'm going to talk about the beauty of uniqueness and multiplicity. This is a kind of a philosophical issue. And I will start by talking about God. We learn from the Spiritist book, the first question, that God is the supreme intelligence, the first cause of all things, or of everything. And we also learn from the Spiritist book that one of the attributes of a God is that God is unique. It means that there is no multiplicity of gods. So if we talk about uniqueness and multiplicity in God, we in this aspect, we don't have any multiplicity because there is no multiplicity of gods. There is only one. That's why he is unique. And how multiplicity comes into existence? With the creation, when God decides to create the universe, then multiplicity arises, right? Then we have the multiplicity of beings. If we take, for example, the animal kingdom, let's take, for example, horses. We have a multiplicity of horses in nature. And but we still don't have uniqueness there because we don't have any differentiation in regarding the behavior of horses, right? So one horse, generally speaking, it behaves the same as any other horse. So there is nothing that make one specific horse unique. And that's why we can conclude that besides God, there is uniqueness only in humans. Why is that? because uniqueness requires self-awareness or self-consciousness. And this self-consciousness is the basis for differentiation among individuals. It's we can say it's this idiosyncrasies that each one of us carry. It's unique of each one of us, right? But self-awareness or self-consciousness, by its term, requires freedom. And freedom is something that humanity has been gradually conquering, right, through history. So that means that the uniqueness we don't have it there in the past, in the far past. It's very limited to just some people, right? And then over the history that was amplifying. So if we go back to the ancient civilizations, for example, you have the sovereign, for example, a king, right? So only the king is unique. Only he differentiates himself from his vassals or servants, right? So in that case, you have a whole civilization, but just one person is unique, has this differentiation. These vassals are equal to each other, right? They don't have this self-consciousness well developed. And that is the example of a civilization, for example, of China, Persia, India, Assyria, and Egypt. In the case of Egypt, for example, you see that the pharaoh is considered as a descendant, a direct descendant of God, right? So that stresses or highlights its uniqueness, but only him. The rest of the people doesn't have such a characteristic, right? And then after that, if we go to Greece, and by this 6th to 5th century before Christ, we have this experience of democracy in the city of Athens. And there we have a group of men, it's not just one, right? But a group of free men that deliberates regarding the city affairs, the city of Athens affairs. But you see that in that society, this freedom is limited because only the free men can participate in the affairs of the city. Slaves, for example, cannot participate. Women cannot participate. So we still have some restriction, right? And then after the city of Athens, five centuries later, then we have Jesus, right? Which come to found Christianity, and then Jesus come and bring with him the law of equality. He says to all of us that we men are all children of the same Heavenly Father. And this our Heavenly Father loves us all, and each one of all. There is no one which is loved more than the other by God, right? He loves us all equally. So here we have this idea behind this idea of equality is the idea of freedom, right? And then he tells us to symbolize what he says. He tells us the parable of the lost sheep, right? Then he says that a shepherd has 100 sheep, but one goes missing. What does he do? He leaves the 99 others and goes searching for the lost one. And then when he finds the lost one, he rejoices over it, more than the 99 that he didn't get lost. So what does Jesus want to mean with that is that this is how God would rejoice when a sinner returns to him. And so it meaning that he loved the sinner as much as a saint, for example, although it doesn't mean that he approves the acts of the sinner, right? But he loved him as much as any other person. So that is a step further that Jesus brings to us. And then after that, in the context of the Christian philosophy, we have on the 4th to 5th century the thought of Saint Augustine. And there Saint Augustine started his personal reflection about the soul and its relation to God. Actually, his soul, right? And the relation to God. So this kind of introspective posture may make Saint Augustine known as the philosopher of interiority. And interiority has all to do with self-consciousness, right? So we are progressing through time, right? But the medieval times where Saint Augustine lived, which extended from the 4th century until the 15th century, and the medieval times, men in general were still stuck into the servitude of the landlords, because we were then in the feudalism system, right? So that servitude is were a situation close to slavery, right? So we still didn't have freedom at that time. We needed to wait until the modern period, which started by the 16th century. And then we have the figure of René Descartes, the French philosopher. Descartes resumed the Saint Augustine reflection with his famous cogito ergo sum, which means I think, therefore I am. So now, again, going into the interior, right? That's why with René Descartes, we have the birth of a subjectivity, of self-consciousness, right? Of individuality, of a personality, right? And then going after Descartes, we have on the 18th century, the philosophy of enlightenment. Men like Voltaire, Rousseau, Diderot, Montesquieu, right? And they all defended the idea of a freedom for every man, for everybody. So, and then those ideas result in the French Revolution, and we have in the context of the French Revolution, the Declaration of the Rights of Man and Citizen, which says in the beginning, men are born and remain free and equal in respect of their rights. So that's the idea which is progressing through time, right? And then we could ask, what do Spiritism talks about uniqueness and multiplicity? So let's take a look in the Spiritist book. And in the Spiritist book, we regarding the multiplicity of a man, what is common to us all regarding our multiplicity? And then the question 115 from the Spiritist book says that all spirits are created simple and ignorant, and God has given us a mission, which is to progressively evoluting until reaching perfection. So that is common to all of us as a multiplicity, right? And how can we do that? We do that by many existences, right? So the idea of a reincarnation is behind this progress, this law of progress, right? That is, it is involved in all of our lives. And by the other hand, what is unique to each one of us? Then if we go to the question 96 from the Spiritist book, and where Kardec asked about if the spirits are us, right? The spirits normally are the discarnated people, but we are in spirit incarnated, right? So, with a physical body. And then Kardec asked if all spirits are equal or there is some kind of a hierarchy among them. And then the answer is that they are of a different order. So each one of us, we are in an individual degree of self-purification. So that's the idea of a uniqueness, right? Each one of us are unique in this, let's say, evolutionary scale, right? And some are more advanced, some are less, but each one is in a specific point of that spectrum. And this because of our free will that God gives us, right? So by having this free will, we decide by ourselves how fast or how slow we are going to progress. And the freedom of choice, the base for that is that makes each one of us to have the merit of our own deeds, of our own progress, right? And the interesting thing that we see in the Spirit book, going now back to the multiplicity, is that since all of us must progress, we do that the progress in every way. It means the question 202 says, since we must progress in every way, each sex, like each social position, offers us opportunities to acquire experience. So then we see the richness of the diversity, the multiplicity, right? We go through many reincarnations, many lives, and then we go through many ethnicity, gender, men, women, sexuality, religion, ability, disability. So many a diversity of situations that we live, and from that we acquire experience. Then we evolve as a spirit, right? So this is the point of view of Spiritism regarding multiplicity and uniqueness, right? So at the end, what we could ask, what is the reality today, right? So we can summarize and make a kind of a wrap up. We could say that Jesus brought us the idea of equality, right? But we still live with the deep inequalities in our world. That is clear, right? And we can see every day on the news. Philosophy of enlightenment universalized the idea of freedom to everyone, to everybody. But we still have in our world brothers living under oppression. So, and what about fraternity? Fraternity is still lacking at all in our world because of selfishness, right? So if we go to a text from Kardec that he wrote on the posthumous works, this book, the title is Posthumous Works, and he talks about this let's say what the Enlightenment philosopher and the French Revolution defended, which was the idea of equality, liberty, and fraternity. And there Kardec says that the sentiment of fraternity should bind us all, because in fraternity, what is fraternity? Fraternity is we can understand through the application of the maxim, which were also brought by Jesus, which says, "Do unto others what you want others do unto you." So this is the basis of fraternity. And what is important that Kardec says in this text is that fraternity is the basis for equality. Equality derives from fraternity. If I see my neighbor as equal to me, then I have this fraternal sentiment to him, right? And vice versa, reciprocally. And from equality and fraternity together, they are the basis for freedom or liberty, right? So you see that they are all connected. Fraternity on the basis, then equality, and then equality with the fraternity, you have freedom. So then Kardec says, by helping each other, we'll go faster to our common goal. Our common goal, the relative perfection, as we already saw in the Spiritist book, right? And then by doing that, the long-awaited world of regeneration, which we are now going through a planetary transition, we say, and going forward to a world of regeneration. So this world where evil, for example, will not predominate anymore, right? So this world of regeneration will become true for us, for our humanity, we as humanity as a whole, only when each of us, so the multiplicity, which is humanity, will reach the world of regeneration when each one of us, uniquely, right, carries out our moral transformation. So that is something that I would like to talk today about this interesting issue. And I will conclude with quoting from that Adam made to me in an email. And the quoting is, "The multiplicity of the uniqueness of everyone is what helps us grow and evolve as individuals and as a collective." So that's exactly what we just saw in the Kardec's text, right? So that, I think, is the beauty of the uniqueness and multiplicity. Thank you for watching.
Thank you so much, Roberto, for that very insightful talk. I'll put you backstage and we'll bring you back later for the round table. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you have any questions at all for Roberto Watanabe or Anahy Fonseca, please put them in the live chat, which will be either on the right hand side or below, depending on how you're watching us today. And of course, you can only do that if you're watching via the Kardec Group YouTube or Facebook streams, or via one of the streams of our streaming partners. And we do have quite a few people watching on the other channels today. If you're watching on something that's been shared elsewhere, we might not be able to see your specific comments. So where are we going now? We are going to a prize draw. Yes, thank you, backstage, for telling me that. I can hear you all the way from up here. So we are going now to our prize draw. So we're going to have this a little bit earlier this time to give more people a bit more time to reply, to let us know that they're watching live. So how's it going to work? If you are one of the people who registered in advance of the event and you signed up to be entered into the prize draw, we're now going to choose your name at random. If your name is chosen, please let us know that you're watching live. Otherwise, we will choose another name in a moment. So let's bring up the little spinning wheel of fortune. Let's go. Let's see who's going to win this time. Off we go. Round and round and round. Sandra dos Jimenez. If you are watching live with us, or if you know of Sandra, please send us a message ASAP via the live chat, or find someone else who can send us a message ASAP via the live chat. Otherwise, we will choose another name later. Okay, and obviously what you're going to win, a bundle of Spiritist books. Okay, yes, Sandra's with us. Way, well done, congratulations. You have won a bundle of Spiritist books. We will contact you later to arrange that. Wonderful. We have our 4 lucky winners, and so they will be winning. They will be receiving a bundle of Spiritist books, including potentially, as a donation from Mr. Dan Assisi, an audio book. An audio book copy of his latest book, which we'll talk about in a little bit. So, that's great. We now have 4 winners. Congratulations to all those wonderful people. So now we have, again, last opportunity to talk about our fundraising campaign. Grupo Espírita Sheila in Salvador, run by Florencio Anton, and Instituto Multidimensional in Curitiba, run by Daniel Rossi, are both non-profit organizations which support their local poor communities in Brazil. Both of these groups work really hard, and we mean really, really hard, to provide educational and social care, different activities, food bundles, baby boxes, things to keep kids off the street, things to keep adults in work and occupied as well, housing for people who can't get this thing anywhere else. And obviously during the pandemic, their needs have been incredibly high, and the resources that they have received have been incredibly low. So Florenzo and Daniel, they work tirelessly to support their respective communities, and it's only right that we help them. Us here at Kardec Group, we want to help, and these boys really deserve it, and the wonderful people that they work with deserve it as well. So if you can spare 20, 10 or £5 a month, because that's all it takes, if you can spare just a small amount each month, then please come to www.kardec.org.uk/high5. You know, that a high five, you know, that wonderful feeling you get when you accomplish something really good. And we want to give that same feeling to everyone else. So a small amount each month really makes a huge difference. You cannot believe, especially with the exchange rate right now, it's really worth it. So please, 5, 10, 20, £5, or whatever you want to give, because these two groups will make sure that kids are off the street and are in safe activities, that families have food on their table, that people have secure homes to live in. So come on, please, come and give us a high five. I'm going to leave this up on screen for a bit longer than I was planning. Not moving until I get at least one donation come through. Go on www.kardec.org.uk/ no, sorry, don't leave the live to go. You can open up another web browser or do it on your phone or somewhere else. Great. So yes, great, we've got donations coming in. Thank you. You know, donations coming in right now. So www.kardec.org.uk, you'll find all the details of how to donate through us via PayPal, or how to donate directly to these two groups if you have an account in Brazil. Okay, we do know that there are people from Brazil watching with us. Please feel free to donate to them directly. All their contact details are there. And of course, anything that you send to us via us here at Kardec Group, 100% will be sent out to this campaign, to these boys. So please. And of course, thank you to everyone who has been supporting so far. We launched this campaign a year ago, and we have, you know, we've received the amount that has been needed, but we know that more can be done. Okay, thank you. I'm actually going to leave that on screen while we go and say hello to some of the people who are watching with us. Oh, and we've got quite a few people watching with us today. We're going to say hello to Emmanuel, Margaret, Leah, Sandra, Nilva, Georgia, Lynn, Monica, Aniela, John Carlos, Maria, Zoraide, Gerald, Louise, Duarte, Anna, Keller, Catherine, and of course we also have Sandra, who is our winner just now, and many other people who haven't put their names in, but we know that we've got quite a lot of people watching. So, and yes, to all our friends watching via the streams in the Brazilian groups, yes, this is an English event. We're sorry that some of you may not may not be happy with the fact that it's an English event, but it is an English event. Spiritism exists outside of Brazil. So, but thank you everyone for being with us. Okay, we are going to go now to... Sorry, production is trying to tell me something. I can't hear you. You're going to have to put it in the comment in the chat somewhere. But otherwise, we are going to go to follow the script. Okay, I am following the script. You're telling me to follow the script, and you're distracting me. So, but thank you backstage. You've been helping such a huge amount. So we're going to go now to talk with Dan Assisi, who'll be talking about spirituality for our everyday life. Dan is from San Diego, America, and has a master's in public administration, is a doctor in education, and works as executive coach and strategy consultant. He's a Spiritist speaker and author whose first book, Our road to Damascus has won various awards. Dan is the founder of the Spiritist Institute, the executive director of the California Spiritist Association, and host of the Spiritist Conversations podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll hand you over now to Dan Assisi. Dan, you're up and you're on mute.
Yes, and that has been the sentence of 2020, hasn't it? You are on mute, and a year later, I still have trouble taking myself off mute. But here we are, and let's do this. I am thrilled to be here today, and I want to start by asking you a powerful question. I want to ask you, what would your life be like if you were not afraid to fail? How would things change if you felt loved and appreciated at all times? What would you do if you had the power to change the world? Well, these are powerful questions. They are impactful in our lives, and we should think about them, especially as we consider how we are a multidimensional being in a spiritual and earthly journey. So today, for the next couple of minutes, I am excited to have a chance to talk with you about the consequences of bringing spirituality for our everyday life. You might have already noticed that during this event, we have talked about incredibly impactful areas of understanding. We have heard from different speakers talking about immortality of the soul. We have heard them also talk about reincarnation, spirit communication, and mediumship. And we have also heard them mention and expound on the idea of God. And all of these are very powerful ideas, and the knowledge that has been brought forth is no doubt beautiful and life-changing. But one question that sometimes still lingers in our minds is, how can we bring that to our everyday life? And what kind of impact it would have if we did? So today, I get to ask these different difficult but powerful questions of you and of all of us, really, so that we can imagine what it would be like to bring this knowledge of spirituality in general to our everyday being. Spiritism affords us so many different things and ways of looking at life and diving so deeply into understanding this multidimensional journey that all of us have been talked about throughout this event, that it might bear some incentive to take some time to look at these 4 different areas, these 4 different huge and impactful areas: immortality of the soul, reincarnation, mediumship, and God, to see how that would change our lives. And so let's do it. Let's dive in. The first thing that I would love to talk to you about would be this idea of immortality of the spirit, that we are immortal beings. We have seen that through mediumship, through communication, through near-death experiences, to past life regressions. We have understood more and more that who we are does not cease to be when our physical body stops being. And that's a really powerful concept because it speaks exactly to the fear of death that many of the speakers before have brought for us. What it would be like to no longer fear death? What would it have been like to go through, for instance, this COVID pandemic without the incredible anxiety we have felt about losing our physical lives? What if we internalize this idea and this feeling that we are true immortal beings, that even if we were to lose our physical lives, we would not cease to be who we are, and those who we care about would not cease to be who they are? How would that change the way we behave and lead our lives? Would we be able perhaps to not answer the calling of fear and change the way we conduct ourselves? Would we be happier or less anxious? These are important questions that we must bring to our forefront as we think about the impact that thinking of ourselves as immortal spirits would have. And to do that, we have to remember our spiritual essence. We have to remember that we are this multidimensional beings that we have been speaking about, that we are spirit and body. And when we do that, we see the larger perspective and we become a little bit calmer on the inside about what is unfolding on the outside. So as we make time to remember that we are immortal spirits, because we don't make enough time in our days. As a matter of fact, if we were to spend only 5 minutes a day, it would be more than most of us do, because if we are multidimensional beings, we must honor this multidimensional nature. We must also spend time thinking about ourselves as immortal spirits. I always joke that, in fact, we might spend more time brushing our teeth for the recommended 4 minutes a day, twice for 2 minutes, than thinking of ourselves as spirits. But if we did, what impact would it be like? What impact would it have on us? Another interesting piece as well is to think about reincarnation. We have spoken about reincarnation and how it makes sense from a justice and fairness perspective in the cosmos, in the universe, for there to be reincarnation. And once we embrace that idea into our lives, we become more tolerant of others, because reincarnation reminds us that we are in constant process of evolution. And if we are in a process of evolution, then it's okay for us to make mistakes. And we will make mistakes, but we will also have opportunities to get better and to improve ourselves. And beyond that, we will also realize that those around us are also in an evolutionary process. And as such, they too will make mistakes. And so we become more tolerant of our own shortcomings and that of others, because we realize that we are not fixed quantities, we are always changing. And so we have to remember that we're all evolving, and that's transformative for our lives because we become more patient and more accepting of others. If your colleague at work perhaps has thrown you under the bus, maybe if you become more tolerant and accepting, maybe you don't need to go out and seek revenge. Maybe you can have a conversation instead, as you understand that he or she is also very insecure about where they stand. Reincarnation has the power to change human relationships. And that's the beauty of spirituality applied to our lives. Something else that we have talked quite a bit about as well is spirit communication, also known as mediumship. Here in Spiritism, we have an extensive knowledge of spirit communication. It's how Spiritism has started. We have gathered quite a bit of knowledge of how it works, and that is truly happening every single time. And once that comes into the forefront of our minds, and we realize that we can be influenced by others, whether they have a body or not, and we in turn can also influence others, whether they have a body or not, something could change in the way we go about doing things. We start to think more deeply about how do we make decisions, and am I truly behaving the way that I want to, or am I being influenced by others? And how am I using my own influence in the world? How am I making this a better place for all of us? Because if we are multidimensional beings, spoiler alert, we are, then the fact that we live in these 2 dimensions means that we are affecting and changing, contributing to these 2 dimensions. And that is powerful knowledge. We often think about how we are being influenced, but we seldom remember how we're actually influenced those around us. So how are we changing our behaviors? Are we building better relationships with those around us? Are we, in fact, understanding the impact that we have in the world? Should we behave differently because of that? These are some considerations that come about when we start to think about spirit communication more frequently in our everyday lives. But it doesn't end there, friends. One more thing that is also good for us to talk about is the concept of God. We throw this word around as if it were something normal and everyday, but do we truly think about God and the impact that the belief in God has in our lives? If we did, would we perhaps understand that all of us are bound together by links of kinship and not competition? If we understand that we were all created as children of God, that automatically makes us siblings. And in the process, of understanding that, of internalizing that, we ought to become more tolerant with those around us, because we are not competing with each other for attention and love. Because an all-loving God does not prefer some children over others. We are all loved and accepted at all times, just the way we are. And that is such an important moment to freeze in time, in our minds and in our hearts, because oftentimes we do so many things that otherwise we would not have done because we seek attention and acceptance from others. But what if you were reminded? What if in your heart there was space for the certainty that God loves you at all times and all of humanity is your kin? Would you be perhaps a little bit calmer during the day? Would you feel like people are not out to get you? How would that change your life? And how would it change your relations with others as well? These are important ideas that we have to bring to our everyday life. And we have to consider the consequences of everything that we are learning. Because after all, if we are just gaining knowledge, but we are not applying it to our everyday life, what is the point? What if I were to tell you that you have $1 billion in your bank account, but you can never touch it or use it? Would it really be helpful? What if I were to tell you that you had the house or the car of your dreams, but you could never drive it or use that house? Would it really be helpful to you? Would you really enjoy it? Thus is the same question we pose today about spirituality. What are we going to do with all these wonderful treasures that we have been constantly exposed to and are becoming more and more aware of in our daily lives? How will they transform our lives? How would your life be different if you no longer fear death? How would you have behaved during this pandemic if you were not careless, but more at ease with the idea that even if you were to lose your physical body, even if somebody you care about were to lose their physical bodies, you still could be in contact with them. You would still love them and they would still love you, because after all, the bonds that tie us as immortal spirits don't vanquish, don't end, don't perish because we've lost our physical body. We have proof of that through Spiritism and through mediumship. Isn't that a life-changing awareness? How would your life be different if you were more accepting of self of others? How would you be and behave if you internalize the idea that reincarnation is a reality and therefore we're all learning and we are here to learn, and that means we are going to make mistakes. We are going to mess up. And in the process, we might even hurt each other, but we are not doing that on purpose. We're just trying to be happy and better. What it would be like to zoom out to that perspective and use that lens to see all human relationships that we have. And when you go to work, or when you go to the grocery store, or when you go to the park, and imagine people as immortal spirits, and then it becomes easier to be accepting of their mistakes and of our own mistakes as well. What it would be like if we knew we could change the world. Sometimes we feel so powerless, but we forget that beings that are multidimensional by nature means that we have great impact in two worlds, so to speak, at the same time. Yes, we know it's one world, but there are two realms in which we can act on every single day, the physical and the spiritual. Our actions, our behavior affects the spiritual and the physical world at the same time, and by consequence, the entire universe. Wouldn't it be extremely uplifting to shift our mindset from thinking and be worried about how people are influencing us to, in fact, just step into the beautiful power of knowing that we have the power to make choices and decide our own destiny and collaborate so that the destiny of others may be better? And finally, what it would be like if you were certain you were loved unconditionally at all times? What if at no point in your life you really struggled with feeling that you were cared for or loved? Because the truth is, you are loved beyond your wildest dreams. not only by God, the Creator, that created you out of love, but by all beings that you have interacted with, not only in this lifetime, but in the many lifetimes that have come before. That is to say, friend, that there is always an incredible ocean of love coming towards you from people that you might not even recall from previous lives, but that continue to love you, because you continue to love people too when they pass over to the other side, don't you? Love never ends. And so that is the beauty of spirituality for our everyday lives. That is the beauty of really understanding that real spirituality is living a spiritual reality. It's making these things and these knowledge pieces, this new understanding that we have, be part of our everyday life. And that we do by making time and reminding ourselves that we are immortal spirits in this beautiful multidimensional journey. And so I am thankful that you have had the time to be here with us. And I hope that more and more you may find the fulfillment and joy to realize your own incredible spiritual nature.
I was on mute myself. There we go. That's karma for you. It's an instant karma. So thank you, Dan, for being with us and for those wonderful words. And we'll talk to you in a little bit in the round table. Thank you for being with us. So, ladies and gentlemen, again, if you have any questions for Dan, for Roberto, or for Anahy, please send them via the live chat. And we've got quite a few questions coming through already. So, where we go now, we are now going to our last talk of this event, of this block and this event, and that is going to be with Natasha Aragão. So, Natasha will be talking about ecological sustainability, caring for our planetary home. Natasha Aragão is an environmental consultant from Oxford in the UK and worked with environmental and social studies in developing countries for many years, having lived in many parts of the world, and is passionate about her work. Natasha has been involved in several Spiritist and Spiritualist centres, and for the past 10 years has been the coordinator of the Oxford Spiritist Study Group in the UK, which is only a stone's throw away from us here, so our carbon footprint for this last talk is very small indeed. Ladies and gentlemen, I hand you over now to Natasha.
The topic of our talk this evening is about caring for our planetary home. And how can we achieve that through an ecological, sustainable way? The term ecology has been coined back in the 1800s by German zoologist Ernst Haeckel. He combined the word Greek with the Greek word oikos with the Greek word logia, basically the study of our home. Since then, ecology has been associated to many other definitions, all of which have one thing in common: their relationship between all organisms and the environment, their home. And that includes the human species. When we think about our planet as our home, it becomes much more personal, much closer, and it puts us in the same level as any other species that inhabited this planet. So when we're thinking about caring for the planet, we're also thinking about caring for ourselves as humans. I am an environmental consultant, and when I first started working in developing countries with coastal and rural communities, I noticed that those very big fancy words, ecology and sustainability, were beyond the realm of academic studies. These were real issues for these communities, and they had sound knowledge of it, because for them it was a day-to-day reality. For a small-scale farmer or a fisherman, a small change in the environment or in climate is the difference between going to bed hungry or being able to provide for their families. And this work has showed me how ecology and resources are interconnected. They're interlinked. I started working as an ecologist. I ended up working doing social economic studies because they were all and the same thing. We need to move away from the image that we have, that humans are the sovereign ruler of the rest of creation, to another paradigm, that of a universal family. Taking care of our planet is taking care of ourselves. First and foremost, it is our responsibility to look after those who are in need of help. The truth is, our current economic model, it prioritizes the accumulation of wealth. It disregards the responsibility towards those who are most vulnerable. And it is the same model that is depleting our resources. It's changing the climate and is bringing species to the brink of extinction. The conventional development, we know it's not sustainable, but it is our drive to earn, accumulate, possess. We tend to turn a blind eye to the consequences of those actions, not only to the environment, but to other human beings, including those who are yet to be born. And the major contributing factors are our own negative attributes as humans. Our ego, our self-centeredness, our greed for material wealth and power. And as long as the root cause remains unchanged, no matter how much we invest in technology and political reforms, sustainability and sustainable development will remain far from reality. So there's a need to change the human mind, and for all of us to live a simple life in harmony with society and the environment. This is not a new idea. Back in 1872, in the book Genesis, Allan Kardec has raised this issue. How the fact that although material well-being has been very well achieved by the progress of society back then, there was yet lots of progress to be made. What people need nowadays is not only the development of their intelligence, but the elevation of their sentiment. And for this, they must do away with everything that incites their selfishness and pride. In 2015, Pope Francis have raised similar issues, where he was explaining that we need to have what the Bible would call a change of heart. We need to change our attitudes. When we speak of sustainability, we cannot overlook how important it is to include and to listen to all voices, especially those who are excluded for this type of discussions, such as the voice of poor people, immigrants, indigenous people, and the young. We might even say from nature as well. Now, why is it that we have such a big problem listening to those who are beyond us? Why is it that we have so much poverty in Earth? Well, Allan Kardec has asked these same questions back in the 1800s. And the response that we found on the book, the Spiritist book, is that human beings often accuse nature of what is truly the direct consequence of their own nearsightedness. If human beings could simply be more content with what is necessary, the earth would always provide it. And if it does not provide it, it's because we are going beyond our necessities. We are trying to supply luxuries when we should only be looking for our necessities. When half of the world products are squandered in gratifying impulses, wishes, and demands, should humans be astonished when they run out? Do they have any room to complain if we are poorly equipped? Nature is not careless, but humans do not know how to control their use of their resources. Have we learned anything? 1857. So it looks like that despite the fact that we have moved forward, there's still a very long way to go. Some of you might be aware that at the beginning of this month, the COP26 was taking place here in the UK. Now, the COP, this conference of the parties, was aiming to reduce the Earth's average temperatures, which has been increasing gradually, to something that is more acceptable. Now, the reason behind this increase in temperature are many, including the burning of fossil fuels, deforestation, but also the very steep increase of populations. We have moved from 3 billion in 1960 to about almost 8 billion now in 2021. These institutional and political reforms and even technological solutions, they are all valid strategies and very important ones. But what is the role of us as individuals on this grand scheme of things? Well, despite the fact that decades of heavy investment in developing countries, the truth is that poverty, inequality, hunger, malnutrition, they're still rampant. And furthermore, there are many related miseries such as civil war, such as terrorism, various forms of other violent activities. They still remain in many parts of the world and perhaps on a growing scale. And all of this is associated to the unsustainable way that we deal with the world and we deal with the resources. There's a very, very popular slogan that says, when I change, the world will change. We need to acknowledge society and individuals as individuals, that our own spiritual limitations are the root cause of our failure to alleviate the problems that we face in our society. In addition to all the individual actions that all of us need to take, we also need to remember that all of us who are on a spiritual path, we understand the power of our thoughts. And because of that, we also understand how our thoughts create vibrations and how these affect everything around us. Our bodies, the people around us, but also they affect nature in itself. So for this reason, it's very important if all of us can find some quiet time for ourselves and also to look inside. You can call it prayer, self-reflection, contemplation, meditation, but we all need a short time every day to set aside our duties, our responsibilities. We need to pause any trials or dramas of everyday life and take a look inside. Recharge our spiritual powers, recharge that connection with our higher selves and those above us. The truth is, the more we can practice this, the more we will become aware of our actions, our feelings, our limitations, but also what are our true needs, what are our true necessities. And if our inner thoughts, our inner feelings, our vibrations are positive, they create harmony between us and between this pressure home that we live in. A harmony that is created through respect, through appreciation, and through compassion towards others and towards the planet as well. So, what is your pledge to care for our home today? Thank you.
Thank you, Natasha, for that wonderful and very reflective talk, which straight to the point. But I think with things like ecology, climate change, we need to be straight to the point. Like Greta Thunberg has said, no more blah, blah, blah. So thank you so much for that talk, Natasha. And thank you also to Dan, Roberto, and Anahy for all your talks as well. And if you have any questions for them, now is your time to put them in the live chat. So remember, that is on the side or just below, no matter how, depending on what device you're using or how you're watching us. And you can only see your questions if you're watching via the Kardec Group YouTube channel or Facebook page, or via one of our streaming partners. So if it's on one of those official channels, then we can definitely see your comments and questions. We do have quite a few coming in, some interesting ones, definitely. Let's have another quick look to see who is with us today. We have, oh, and thank you also for everyone who's been donating to the High Five campaign and to the next campaign, which I'm going to talk about in a moment. So we have with us Don, Christina, Denise, Lolita, Maria, and quite a few others. So thank you again for everyone who's with us. Right, we have one last chance to talk about this new campaign, which is an official campaign, which Kardec Group is supporting. This is the Joanna G. Angelis translation project. So for many of you who have heard of Joanna G. Angelis, one of the spirits who comes through the Brazilian medium Givaldo Franco, her books are of a psychological nature and are quite in-depth and quite interesting. This is an official campaign run by the Brazilian Spiritist Medical Association, Mansão do Caminho, Centro Espírita Caminho da Redenção, and Editora Liel, and again is being supported by Kardec Group. Here is a short message from José Luiz Roberto, coordinator of the Center for Spiritism and Psychology of the Brazilian Spiritist Medical Association, AMI Brazil, and to explain a little bit about this project. My friends, it's with great joy that we announce at this moment a joint effort of the whole Spiritist movement in favor of the translation of the works of the psychological series of Joanna G. Angelis into English. This is a campaign that we from the Center for Psychology and Spiritism of AMI Brazil are conducting so that the benefactor's work may be translated by native English speakers and have the depth and seriousness it needs, as it is extremely complex material which requires a lot of care to be translated. We count on everyone for this campaign so that not only the benefactor's work, but other books related to the psychological series can reach as many people outside of Brazil as possible. We count on everyone. A big hug, and may the divine light bless us in this project. Thank you for Gelson for those really good words there. And here are the posters for the campaign. These are the posters that you can find on that website as well. So the website for this is www.kardec.org.uk/Joanna, Joanna, and the request is that whoever who is interested in helping, please can you help to donate towards new English editions of the psychological series by Joanna G. Angelis and other books related to the series, able to help bring the benefactor's teachings to thousands of people around the world. So we do hope that people can help with this. It is a big campaign. Again, the campaign is an official campaign by AMI Brazil, Mansão do Caminho, Centro Espírita Caminho da Redenção, and Editora Liel, and Kardec Group is supporting this. And again, that website, www.kardec.org.uk/Joanna. And there we go. That's the one. And on the page, you will find all the PayPal buttons to be able to make any donation that you can in either British pounds, Brazilian reais, US dollars, or euros. And 100% of all the money that's received through this campaign will go towards this project. So again, www.kardec.org.uk/Joanna. And it is it is a campaign that we are supporting. Thank you. And again, thank you to those who have been donating during the event. We have one or two people online with us already who have given us some very generous contributions. So thank you so much. Well, I think it's time for the last musical interlude of the event. And this is a very delicate piece called Impromptu, composed and performed by Thomas Gregory, who is a cellist, composer, and conductor. and he's created a method for learning music, which is learning musical instruments, which is called Vamouche. Now, we hope that you can just sit back, relax for the next few moments, and listen to this wonderful music, and we hope that you enjoy the video as well. Thank you so much, Thomas Gregory, for that wonderful piece of music. So that's Impromptu by Thomas Gregory. And all the 4 pieces of music that we have played during this event, we all tried to get them onto our YouTube channel. So these will be on the Kardec Group YouTube channel. We had a lot of fun making the little videos for them, and we're so thankful to Frederico Gouveia and Thomas Gregory for the music that they have provided. And you know what, watching that, listening to the talks today and yesterday has got me thinking about how we sometimes act differently in different situations, and how I myself act differently, as if maybe I have different personalities, different personas. And actually I have a friend who might be able to explain this a lot better than myself.
Very well. We need to come to an agreement. Is everyone here? Are you blind? Of course we're here. Everybody's here.
Present, darlings. Make peace be in this environment.
Very well. We have to resolve the situation. It's all wrong. We are just one person. Or at least we should be, right? And you want me to do what? I'm like this, and you're like that, and I'm like this, and you're something else.
With the valuable help of our devoted spiritual friends, we shall find a solution.
Me. Spiritual friends. You don't want me to be like this dummy, do you?
Patience is a treasure that needs to be cultivated, sister. And your dear mother is the dummy.
Idiot.
God. God loves you.
Hold me back, I'll smack her.
Calm down, sister.
Shut your mouth.
Patient.
Shut up,
Calm.
shut up,
Let's say
shut
a
up, you
prayer.
spiritist.
Aw,
Spiritist.
don't be upset.
Spirit of a pig.
Coochie, coochie, coochie,
I
coochie.
can't take it anymore.
Do you want a hug?
That's enough. Please, this is serious. I need to find a balance between the Renatas. And I didn't even call them all. In everyday life, for example, I need to be less stressed. Except, honey, everyday life is stressful. I have to wash, iron, cook, take the children to school, look after the husband. If Mother Teresa of Calcutta there did half of what I do, she wouldn't have that sugar smile of hers that I
My
hate.
smile's a prayer.
And slapping you would be fair. And I could be less artificial at the center, right? Be a bit more genuine.
What do you mean by artificial, my spiritual sister?
Girl, stop being so fake. No one talks like that. Stop calling around. Seems like you swallow Chico Xavier.
I only try to follow the example of the bastions of Spiritism.
To follow their example is to be inspired by their good attitudes and not imitate the gestures and vocabulary. Just to end up being like certain people I know, okay? Like this crazy grumpy woman, you know? Crazy is your Renatas! We need to have balance. Otherwise we will end up crazy. Is that what we want?
No, dear sister.
Obviously not. So I want to try to be the same person everywhere I go. At the center, for example, I will try to behave fittingly, without exaggerating, you know what I mean? Balanced. On a day-to-day basis, I will try to be less stressed. Otherwise, I'll go crazy. Do you have a deal? Yeah. Let's see.
Bravo, sister, bravo! It is a valuable decision that reflects the quest for self-improvement. And there is more. Oh, sorry. Count me in.
Everyone, hey, I'm here now. So sorry I was working. Tell me about the meeting, how was it? What happened? So how's this thing gonna be? Who will be? Who am I?
Dear friends, subscribe to our channel, like our videos, share them.
Don't share anything, don't subscribe to anything, don't do anything. Go do the dishes, you lazy worm.
Oh,
Go work.
dear
You think life is
sister,
like that?
Let's send
What is
a
it?
positive message
What is
to
it?
people.
Speak your stupid ass up.
Look, guys, she's like this, but she is a good person.
Thank you, Renata, for those wonderful reflections, and indeed, thank you to our good friends at the channel Amigos de Luz, Friends of Light, who have provided this video as well as the one that we showed yesterday, these English versions which were produced specifically for this event. So Amigos de Luz is a spiritist comedy channel on YouTube which brings good reflections in a humorous way. Their videos are primarily in Portuguese, but there will be more English videos to come. And these English videos of the ones that we played today and yesterday, so that is the one of the prayer for ignorance, and this one now, me, myself, my spiritist self, should be on YouTube very soon. So again, thank you so much to Fabio for helping us with those videos. Right, let's have a final quick look to see if anyone new's joined us. Nope, so we're going to go straight to our round table now. So we do have quite a few questions for us. So it's time now to bring on our wonderful guests once more. So let's welcome back to the stage, if I can get them in the right order, Anahy Fonseca, Dan Assisi, Natasha Aragão, and Roberto Watanabe. Roberto's camera is off at the moment. But thank you for being with us, ladies and gentlemen. So we have quite a few questions here. Feel free to have your microphones on mute. Unfortunately. So let's go through and look at some of these questions. So who are we going to first? I think we'll go to Anahy first. Anahy, how common is it for mediums to develop mental health issues?
Okay, can you guys hear me? Because I changed the microphones. Is that okay? Okay. So for me, it was a little low. Adam, can you ask again, please?
How common is it for mediums to develop mental health issues?
Okay, actually, it's quite common. Okay, especially if, for instance, the medium is not a disciplined person, if he hasn't or she hasn't disciplined the mediumship. And also, for instance, the person, because mediumship all of us have. It's like a one. Remember the movie The Sixth Sense? Um, so we all have mediumship, but the thing is that a little, it's more developed in some people than in others. But if the mediumship is very active or becoming active at some point in the person's life, and the person, for instance, resists, or in some way the ego defends itself from this development of mediumship, started seeing spirits or hearing. So if the person gets in a crisis or the person doesn't have, sorry, the cultural background, the spiritual religions background, then it's quite common to develop some kind of psychiatric problem.
Yeah, and definitely, I think we can see in many books, including the Medium's book and Review Spirit, many pieces of advice regarding this as well. Okay, so Roberto, question for you here. Does everyone have the opportunity to reincarnate, even if they don't believe in God or in the same God? Actually, I think that may be for Dan as well.
Yeah, for sure. Everybody has the opportunity to reincarnate, because this is a law, right? It's part of the moral laws that we study in the third book of the Spiritist book. And then there we have the law of progress. So the objective of us all, as we already saw today, is to reach perfection. And certainly that is not possible in just one incarnation. So that's why we need to reincarnate. And well, even if we don't believe in God, that happens anyway, because it's a kind of a law of nature. Let's put it that way, right? So, and also because, as I said in my speech, God loves everyone. Doesn't matter if he is a criminal or a saint, or don't believe in him or don't believe it. It doesn't matter, right? So he loves everybody. And then, or the third part of the question, if the person doesn't believe in the same God. Well, here we have this following situation. God has many names, depending on the belief of the person, right? In summary, all of us believe in a transcendent power. So this transcendent power has various names. You can name it God, you can name it Allah, you can name it Jehovah, you can name it Brahman, you can name it Tao, or whatever, right? So it is the same thing. So name it doesn't matter in this sense. So well, summarizing, yes, we all have the opportunity to reincarnate, and we need to do that. We must do that to reach perfection. Otherwise, we wouldn't do it, right? That's a good answer.
Great, thank you. And Dan, did you want to give any contribution to that?
Oh, I love that. I think that is a beautiful thing and a beautiful perspective that we have, right? Because when we go back to the idea of God and justice, we have to arrive at the realization that God doesn't prefer some over others. So all of us will have the opportunity to get better, and reincarnation is how we do it. So yes, all of us get to reincarnate as many times as it takes for us to get better, to evolve, to find fulfillment and joy. Isn't that wonderful that we have that opportunity? I think reincarnation is perhaps one of the most beautiful proofs of God's love for us. And I think that's a really powerful reality that we sometimes fail to see. And yes, We get to reincarnate. Sometimes we don't like it because it's hard work, but it is needed work. It's, hard work and hard work at the same time. And what a wonderful thing it is. If we didn't have the same opportunities, if we didn't have the chance to evolve, it wouldn't be a fair God. And if you were not a fair God, it wouldn't be a God at all, right? So by definition, we all get the same opportunity and chance. And so I think Roberto did a great job of sharing that with us.
Great. And Natasha, I think one of your children had a question that may be partially related to this as well.
Yeah, Dan. So my children were sitting over here, not here, they're downstairs while we're having this live conference. And my 9-year-old wants to know, where is his question? He would like to know if dogs and plants also have souls, and can they become angels?
Oh, I love that question. And that is a very thoughtful question from our young scholars over there, already thinking with their spiritual minds on. This is a topic that in Spiritism, we oftentimes like to study quite a bit. We all agree that for sure, plants and animals have a spiritual essence to them that is developing over time. It's just so happened that sometimes in Spiritism, we use the term soul to define that spirituality that has already achieved a certain level of rationality, reason, and free will. They definitely have a spiritual essence, and they are definitely growing towards perfection. So they too will move from plants and vegetables to animals, and then to human beings, and eventually to angels. All of us will get to that level of beauty. In fact, we have a very poetic passage in the Spirit's book, for those that like to research, question 540, that says that everything in nature is connected, from the simplest atom to the most beautiful archangel, which at one point was also an atom to begin with. So again, we go back to this idea of God, and a more beautiful and just God that Spiritism unveils to us, that shows there is a natural progression through nature, that everything is enchained, and that all of us get to reach that level. So our very young scholar over there can be assured that plants and animals are also on their way to become angels. And that's why we also have to make sure that we're kind to them and helpful in their journey.
Great. And just to emphasize that you said the simplest atom with a T, not so simplest Adam. I do count myself as a little bit simple from time to time, but there we go.
Oh, right. You British people, you.
Wow.
Adam, can I just say something?
Please.
To what Natasha and Dan were saying, were saying, that it's very important that we know that revelation is progressive, revelation and evolution. So as we evolve, we also understand and get to understand, to know God better, because it depends on our evolution. The archangels, when we get there, we are all going to get there, we can really understand God and be with him in a fulfilling way. We are now traveling to this in this path. Just to complete that, I think it's great that this connection and to all the things on earth, it's very important that we get this message. Just wanted to stress this.
Yeah.
Can I also compliment?
Please.
Yeah, okay. So we say that plants, dogs, and humans, everybody, they have an intelligent principle, which is a general idea of a spirit with a small s. And then in plants, we have then as this intelligent principle. And then in animals, like dogs, horses, we see in the second book of the Spirit book, that Kardec asked if the animal had a soul, and the answer is yes, they have a soul, but obviously their souls is much less developed than the humans, because they are irrational, they are governed by instinct, and we as a spirit with a capital S, And we are individualization of that intelligent principle, and we are rational, we have intelligence. So this is a kind of evolution, like Dan said, right? So we go through the kingdoms, right? Mineral, vegetable, animal, and human as a different kingdom, if you can put it as a different kingdom. And so regarding the other part of the question, the son of Natasha asked if we can become angels being humans. Well, we cannot, because angels is, if we see the spirit scale that Kardec bring us in the question 100 from the Spirit book. We go from the impure spirit until the pure spirit. The pure spirit are what we call angels in the Catholic religion, right? So this condition of pure spirit is much far above us. So as humans, is not possible today, right? So angels only in the far future. That I would like to compliment.
But we will get there.
Oh yeah.
We will get together. Yeah.
Even us simple atoms. Yep.
Jesus got there, right?
Okay, let's go to a deeper question now. So question plus a little reflection about it. So this is mainly for Dan, but again, anyone who wants to give any extra information about it, please do. What is your advice to anyone who has discovered the feeling of freedom, realizing that life does not end, and actually can be more attracted to passing through this world a bit too quickly? I think it is known as voluntary suicide. I think it is a common phase, and it is not until you pass it that you realize what it means, but it could be too late for someone.
Yes, that is a very deep and important question. I think that many of us can agree that at times the world outside can be very disenchanting and perhaps very harsh for us to understand when we're not using our spiritual minds. And I understand that once we begin to really understand that we are immortal spirits, we wish to be in a better place. We wish to be in a realm where there's love and happiness. And that is something that should continue to be our goal. But it's also important for us to remind that the reason why we are here today is because we are in a learning journey. And there are things here that we need to go through so that we can get to those places. Because it's akin to me giving you a gold medal for the Olympics. That would be really nice, but it wouldn't have the same sense for you because you didn't run that race and you didn't win that race. And so the merit of learning how to do things is what we exercise here in this life. So if we just extinguish our physical life, we are going to find out that we are not necessarily going to find that peace and happiness that we are searching, because we will have squandered in a certain way. I know it's a hard word, but it's a true word. We have squandered the opportunity and the possibilities that were so carefully built for us here. It takes quite a bit of effort from our spiritual mentors and guides to prepare our lives. They find us the right place for us to be born in. They find us the right family for us to be born in so that we have what we need or what we lack to develop certain characteristics and certain abilities that would allow us to grow in the best possible way. We don't have that synoptic view. We don't have that high view sometimes, and we think we can shortcut it by just going straight to the spiritual world. But fortunately, through many of our mediumistic communications through the times over these past 160 years, we have had a chance to hear from people on the other side of life that tell their story or how they have done that. They have done this shortcut because they believed they were going to end their suffering. And they tell us that, in fact, they sort of made it worse. As a matter of fact, if you're willing or want to dive deeper into that, you can go to the second part of this incredible book called Heaven and Hell. And I like to call the Heaven and Hell the Spiritist soap opera. The first part, you get all the the summation of all the theory and things of books before. But the second part, you get to hear firsthand from people who were happy on earth and who were not so happy on earth, and how they find themselves in the spiritual world now. And you will hear some stories. And so in a roundabout way, not to eat too much of our time, that question is really important, because we have to pay attention to the fact that there is a reason for us to be here. And that we ought to use this opportunity like a day at work, right? We leave our homes, we go to work for a day, and we come back home, we rest, and we come back and we learn more. This is our learning opportunity. So I would really hope that this lands on people's hearts to know that if we shortcut the process, we have to at least do it again. It's actually going to be harder the next time around, because we have squandered some resources. So by all means, hang in there. Know that God will never give you a challenge that is beyond your ability to meet it, right? If God gave you a challenge that was so great, it would be a mean God. And by definition, it could not possibly be God. So all challenges, in a roundabout way, when we use our spiritist minds, they're compliments to us. They're saying, congratulations, you can solve this thing, right? We generally see them as problems, but from a spiritual perspective, they're compliments. It's the universe telling you, you are already able to solve this big problem and learn from it. Now, you might not solve it the way you want to, but there will be a solution. And remember that you're not alone. So great question. So that's why it's so important for us to talk with other people and research about people that have gone before us, to realize that the shortcutting, the taking our own lives, and the desire to speed up that spiritual process actually backfires on us and delays it quite a bit more.
Yeah, absolutely. Anahy, as a psychiatrist, is there anything that you'd like to add to that?
Yes, more as an Jungian analyst than as a psychiatrist. But just the World Health Organization has said that it's in the world nowadays, each around 40 seconds, somebody kills himself or herself. Okay, so the rates of suicide are very, very high. And I get very worried as a psychiatrist and also as an analyst that the disconnection, that's very important, that maybe Natasha would love to talk about a little bit. But and she has wonderfully talked about this in her speech, that the disconnection that we are from ourselves. So the light is within ourselves. So it's the ego that thinks, as Dan was saying, that is alone, or this is a very hard life. Stop the train that I want to get down, or something like that. And drink a lot or use drugs or things like that. It's the ego that sees things. And I like very much when Dan talks about our spiritist mind, our spiritual mind. So we have to remember that we are much more than this. I love the small movie that you played before, Adam, from these guys here in Brazil, the comics, this comic group, because they are joking. It's very important with joking in a good sense, that we play a little bit with the notion in a light way, with the notion that we are spirits. As Dan and all of you said, we are never alone, never alone. And how do we understand, how do we feel, more importantly, how do we feel that we are not alone? Even if I'm totally alone now, for instance, I don't have any family, or something happened, I lost my friends, and how do I know that I'm not alone? Where is this knowledge? It's inside of us. It's not outside. I get very worried because all these images and the TVs, movies, and all, they are all calling us all the time for outside view. And the important view, okay, we have to be in this world and we have to know people. I'm getting to know some of you for the first time, and it's like we have already met, and this is great. but it's very important. Where do I have this knowledge? In my feeling. And where is my feeling? In my spirit. It's the spirit that feels. It's not our brains, people. The brain doesn't, produces the mind. We have Alexander and other, I'm sure other colleagues talking about this. It is the spirit that uses the brain to express itself in this world. So it's very important to make this reconnection, like in the Latin world religion is religere or religare, right, in Latin. So it's also religare, to connect to something, to God, but also religere, to reconnect from within to our deepest self. Okay, so this is very important. We are never alone. And where is this knowledge? Inside of us. That's why meditation and prayers and a time, as you guys put here, have put here, music and nice images. This is so important because we have to reconnect, to rebound. That's it.
That's great, thank you. And yes, there is so much spiritist literature out there that can help people who are going through those dark moments, or help people help others as well. We can find this in things like the Spirit's Book, the Gospel According to Spiritism, the works of, maybe some of the works of Andre Louise, the works of Joanna de Angelis, which we were talking about before as well. So much of this really rich material out there. Right, which question shall we go to next? Roberto. So we've got a double question here. How does multiplicity differ from duplicity? And how do the places that are behind on inclusion and diversity, how do they impact on the spiritual evolution of people and the world? You're on mute.
Okay. Well, multiplicity gives us the meaning of many, right? And the duplicity of the two. And we utilize today the multiplicity in two aspects. First, from the quantity perspective, when I gave, for example, the example of horses, that there are many horses in nature, right? So this is a quantity perspective. And then after that, I utilize the multiplicity in the quality perspective. When I talked about the perspective, the diversity, that was a word from Adam that he wrote to me, right, Adam? Remember? So the diversity of experiences that the spirit has, right? So we as a spirit can reincarnate as men, as women, as a rich guy, a poor guy, and so on. In one country, another country, and one race, another race. It doesn't matter, right? So in this case, we have a quality perspective, and a multiplicity of quality perspective. But it is interesting that this multiplicity of experiences is what make us, each of us, unique, because then we act to this experience our own way. All of us have our own idiosyncrasies, as I said in the beginning, right? Our own way of being. So, and I utilize the term multiplicity in this sense here. Duplicity is I didn't talk about his today, but we can utilize this. We utilize this conceptually when we say, for example, that in the Spiritist book, in the first part, Kardec says that there are two general elements in the universe: the spirit and matter. Right? The spirit is the intelligent principle that I mentioned, and matter is matter. Right? And you also can think about, for example, from a Jungian point of view, Anahy knows that. We can say that in our psyche, we have the ego as the center of consciousness, but we have the self as the center of the psyche as a whole. And the evolution and progress that we are talking here today is the ego connecting to the self, right? So that is a kind of a evolution in Jungian terminology. And so we can utilize in many ways. For example, the Greeks believed that man is composed of two parts, soul and body. We spirit, we have three parts: the soul, the body, and the perispirit, the fluidic body, which connected the soul to the body, right? So these idea of a duplicity and multiplicity are just ideas to utilizing and creating concepts for us to understand better ourselves, right? So that I would answer to this question. Regarding the places that are behind in inclusion and diversity, and in their impact on the spirit evolution, well, for sure it impacted negatively, right? Because it impacted that there is a delay of progress in those living in those places, but either because of inequality, either because of the conflict for those who are in worse position, want to fight for better position. But the progress will happen anyway, because this is a law, right? Like I said, the law of progress. So this is rise another kind of interesting issue, philosophical issue in Spiritism, which is the difference between free will and determinism, right? So we say that we Spirit have free will. It doesn't mean that we can do anything that we want, right? Because there are the divine laws, the laws of nature, the moral laws, and that is determinism. So we will evolve if we want or not, right? This is deterministic. What is in our free will is how fast or how slowly we can evolve, like I mentioned before. So at the end of the day, we all will go sooner or later to the world of regeneration. And the thing is that those that are obstacles to reaching such a target, as the spiritist literature says, they will let's say invited to go to other planets, right? To reincarnating on other worlds. So because the spirit which is in the level of the trial and expiation world cannot live in a regenerative world. So I think that I could answer to those two questions.
No, that's great. No, exactly. Again, Spiritism teaches us so well that things have to evolve, cannot regress, can only go forward. We might stagnate somehow, but we're not going to go backwards.
Yeah. I think it goes a lot in for those of us who are youth and know the Spirits book by Allan Kardec. There's a beautiful chapter, which is chapter 5 from the book 3, that talks about all the possible laws, and one of the divine laws is the law of destruction. I know it doesn't make much sense, but within the law of destruction, there's a beautiful definition about what is civilization and what is the need for civilization, the need for society. And according to the Spirit, civilization develops both our moral sense and our sentiment for charity. And that, it leads this idea that people need to support one another mutually. And the Spirit's book said that if we live at the expense of others, if we deprive them from the barest necessities, if we hoard the benefits for ourselves, we are not truly living in a society. We are only wearing the mask of civilization. And that's a very strong point, because it goes back a little bit to, as Anahy was saying, a little bit about how I was explaining on my presentation, is this whole idea that we are interconnected is exactly that. When we think about the fact that we are, how do we feel as a society, considering that the 5 of us, we are very privileged, aren't we? We are all sitting on a room full of electricity. We have access to internet. We are able to have this blessing and this privilege of being together in spirit and through the internet, talking to one another. And there's a very large group of the population that do not have access to that. So how do we feel about it? What can we do about it? So what does it show to us as a society? How evolved are we? Not based on the most developed part of our society, but based on the less developed part of our society. That's what really dictates where we are, isn't it? It's there's a very interesting thing on the same book, on the law of destruction. I can't remember which of the questions, but where they make a comparison between humans and animals, and they say that all of us, that the way that human beings seek the enhancement of our luxuries, our satisfactions, our desires, it places ourselves actually below the animals, because the animals know when to stop. They only go up to where they need. And wise man, wise woman, people have an intuition. This is as much as I need. Everything else is just what I want. So that's why it's so important for us to be at the moment where we are right now, to have this idea. If I am having more than my fair share, somebody's having less. Somebody's not having enough. So we do have to have this look, isn't it? And I totally agree with you, Roberto, about this, the fact that the planet is evolving and we have to look into it. But we shouldn't be thinking, I know some spiritists that would believe that, this is a planet and we are evolving. We're going to go somewhere else. I'm not really, at least that's not my opinion. I don't think there's a yellow bus picking up us and taking us somewhere else. I think that even if the planet evolves, the way that the planet evolves is by us evolving and by taking care of the world, and we have to look after the little man, and we have to look after those that are most in need, be it an animal, be it a plant, be the planet, be the society, isn't it?
Yeah. And I'd say, no, definitely no yellow bus, but certainly a white van with a nice red flashing light on top, bringing us right back to where we are right now.
Exactly.
So, actually, Natasha, on that point and talking about using things and thinking about, obviously, COP26 and depletion of the Earth's resources, there's a question of how does the spirituality see the balance between finding sustainable solutions and keeping technological evolution? How can we use sustainable solutions without compromising natural resources? And we're sat here with computers, with things that use all the minerals from mining solutions, which aren't very good and quite dangerous as well.
I think that if we go a little bit deeper on, I'm going to try not to get too scholar here and try to keep it as simple as possible. But the whole idea of sustainable development does not mean stopping development. It just means doing it right. That's the idea about it. So we don't compromise natural resources. We don't deplete them if we know how to use them right. I know that one of the things about the COP was that it started so well. And on the second week, it didn't really went as good as the first week was promising us to do, isn't it? There were a couple of things that came out of the COP that were, how credible are these agreements? When we know that, many people have lots of beautiful, agreements, but then many countries did not sign to those agreements. The fact that the COP was one of the most exclusive COP ever. Many countries could not take part of it because of COVID, because of visas, because of so many things, isn't it? So how credible are the things that we want for? But we have to keep on striking, isn't it? We have to keep on trying. So going back to the question of how does spirituality see this balance? I believe that going back to what we were discussing earlier on what Kardec had said and what the Spirit book had said in the middle 1800s, is it's ego that is at the bottom of our issues. So spirituality sees it as we have to change our frame of mind. That's what spirituality says. We have to think of ourselves as spirits, and we have to think of ourselves as I am the same as everyone else. And I guess I'm going to pick up what Dan was mentioning earlier on one of the responses, isn't it? That the fact that everything is connected, including nature. So the way that spirituality would see it is change your mind, change your ways, things will change. And how can we use sustainable solutions? Well, the idea of sustainable, it's what it says in the can. It's the concept of the word. It doesn't mean stop. It just means think before you do it, and have a real good plan that will be inclusive. I think that we are very blessed as spiritists when we hear all these beautiful talks on the United Nations and in the conference about the fact that we have to be saving the world for our children. And we, as spiritists, we have this insight that we know we are our children. This is just, we are saving the world. It's actually for ourselves. We're going to be born here again. You know, we have to save it for ourselves. So that just puts even more responsibility on us.
Exactly. Yeah. And Pekka, who was with us earlier, was talking about the same thing. You know, it's our future. How we treat the planet now will affect us in the future, because it will be us coming back here.
It's true, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. A few more questions here. So Dan, we're going to Dan's question first, or Anahy's? We're going to Anahy's question first. So again, two questions here for you. How can a medium be protected from dangerous or troubled influences? And why do some mediums lose their mediumship? Can this be related to mental health?
Okay, so I think I'll just use, that's a very nice thing, talking in a round table, that you can use what other people were talking about, like Dan and Natasha and Roberto. The thing is that if we believe, Natasha was talking about that our thoughts, they vibrate, right? So if we vibrate in a nice way, then we are going to have good spirits coming to our help, right? We know that. So if I vibrate in a bad way, if I act and I think in a bad way, not thinking of this kinship that we are talking about, fraternal thoughts, and thinking that, okay, we are all here in this spaceship. Isn't that wonderful? We are all here in this beautiful blue spaceship, and with such gifts that we partake, right? So if we don't vibrate in this way, and for instance, the person you were asking them, the person loses the capacity of mediumship. I think it's basically that the good spirits just abandon the person, because, as Roberto was saying, we have free will, right? And we know deep inside. Roberto also talked about the self, Jungian self, the concept, and I thought it was great to watch Gelson earlier in this project of helping to translate. I'm a teacher of Joana de Angelis, And she's using a lot of Jung's terminology and psychology. So for Joana de Angelis, the self is the spirit, because we are here with the ego, right? And we have a soul, we are incarnated, but all the knowledge hasn't the spiritual knowledge, what we really are. It's not in some other place. It's here with us. But how in the psyche, how do we locate is the Jung's concept of the self. So the self for Joana de Angelis is the spirit. Okay. And that's why it's very deep inside, let's say like this, it's multidimensional, but it's located in the very deep unconscious, but it's always in command, right? So we know we are talking about reincarnation. When we reincarnate, we have talked and played with our spiritual guides. And as Roberto said, it's a lot of work, people. And Dan was talking about that too. So, so when we are here, and we, for instance, are supposed to be mediums, and we deviate, we abandon the path of the truth, the good, and the light. Of course, our spiritual guides are say, okay, that's free will, so he will have to come again, as Dan was saying, at next time to try this again. But at the moment, they will simply abandon, because you have to respect free will. So I think this is basic. And sorry about the second question, Adam.
Let me just find it again.
Jungians talk a lot and forget the beginning.
So the two questions were: how can medium be protected against troubled influences, and why do some mediums lose their mediumship capacity?
Okay, so we lose when we leave the path, and we can be protected if we stay in this path of the truth, of the good and the light, right? Nobody can, as Dan was saying, God loves us all. So anything that happens to us in a bad sense in mediumship, or of course it's our own deed, right? Because we have left the path that we were supposed to. And so the last thing that I wanted to say is that we have to face our own truth. Be truthful to ourselves. That's the because I can, that's Anahy is talking from Brazil and have such a nice time with you guys and trying to be good and saying that this and that. But do I really, inside myself, with my own thoughts, do I really act as I'm talking to you now, as I'm saying? When I say about the question of the Spirit's book, this and that, and hearing all of you, but in my day-to-day, do I really talk? Do I have patience with people? Am I tolerant? Do I don't do to others what you wouldn't like them to do to you? So do I try to do that? Really try. So if I'm true to myself, then I'll be all right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Basically.
And it's a bit like the video that we showed from Amigos de Luz. No, all the different personalities we have as well. How true are we really being? Okay, we're almost at the end. We have just a few questions left. So Dan, last questions for you. How can we use all this important information to influence people who can't accept the fact of being an eternal spirit? The people who just want to live for the present?
That's a great question, and one that we hear often, right? If only we could change those people, life would be better, right? But the truth is, and I don't know if this is the answer we might want, is I don't know that we can change other people. I think at the end of the day, it's about an inner journey. It's about us changing ourselves, because it is by changing ourselves that we provide the best evidence that things can be different. And I think that in the world of today, I think we all see how much polarization is out there, right? There's people with different perspectives bringing things forward. I mean, to this date, we have, not that I'm being judgmental here, but I just want to point out that to this date, we still have people who do not believe that the earth is round, although we have had plenty of scientific evidence to the contrary. So I'm not sure that a logical or emotional argument is enough in this day and age to sway people to think differently. But I do think that the best way to do it is to be that example, is to be that difference, right, in the world that Gandhi talked about. Like, be the change we want to see in the world. Because once we change our behavior, once we behave in a spiritual way and we incorporate that spirituality in our everyday lives, we might catch the attention of those around us who might be interested to know, hold on a second, how come he is or she is even killed in the middle of all this frustration? How come they're still hopeful and joyful? How come they're still happy when there seems to be so much anger, resentment, and hurt out there in the world? I think that when people step into that paradigm, when they step out of their own to get to know you, and they are willing to hear, I think that's when you share with them what you believe in and how you believe in that. But I think that changing other people is a really hard proposition because we cannot control them. I think we can barely control ourselves. We're so struggling to get to know our own inclinations, our habits, our behaviors. So I would slightly reframe the question is, what kind of impact do we have in the world by reframing our behavior and changing our conduct? I think that's where we focus on. And I think that it's beautifully encapsulated by a wonderful quote by Francis of Assisi, who said, preach the gospel at all times, use words when necessary, right? It is not by words sometimes that we are going to change the world, it's by our own action. So I think if we live it, I think people are going to be more interested. It doesn't hurt that we have tons of science and philosophical nourishment there as well to help to make that argument. But that's how I would go about that.
Great, thank you. And yes, no, it's strange that the people who don't believe that the world is round, everyone knows it's round. It's a round disc on the back of 4 elephants on top of a giant turtle flying through space.
Turtles all the way to the bottom, right, Adam? And what's underneath that turtle? More turtles, of course.
Yeah, of course. Right. Just joking, folks. Just joking. All right. So, Natasha, we're going to come to you for last questions because we have to wrap up in just a minute. So, 2 parts. Why do you think that spiritists love to talk about love for each other, but normally skip about talking about love for the planet? And also, is there a reason why the new generation seems to be far more concerned about the environment than the older generations?
Can I ask the second? Can I go for the second first?
Go for it.
All right. Okay. So my personal opinion, not the spiritist opinion, but my personal opinion is that when we evolve as a society, and particularly when the society evolves morally, we are more enlightened to see problems than we had before. What people nowadays will call the snowflake generation is the generation that is against misogyny, racism, sexism, any type of bias, and is looking and pushing for equality and pushing for a better environment. So why do young people look at it? It could be many reasons. It could be because we are hopefully morally evolving as a planet. It could be because we are very privileged to not have as many problems as my parents had, or the parents before my parents. If they had to work many, many hours and they don't have the chance to have a chance to think about the problems of the world, maybe they couldn't, isn't it? And we as we evolved and as we have all these very beautiful technological advancements that let us work faster, but then easier, and that give us time to think, then maybe that also gives us time to think of good things. Many times it's only about TikTok, but let's go with the ones that are the positive things that we have time to think about, the positive ones. For the first part, I think it goes back to, and this is the Spirit's response, it goes back to what we were just discussing, is this ego that I have, that's so beautifully Anahy was explaining how we have this issue about our ego and ourselves and understanding of ourselves, and we think we are the sovereign species of Earth. We are very egocentric. And even as Spiritists, I know many Spiritists that consider, because I am the soul with a big S, not the soul with a small s. So if I am the big soul with the big S, I'm going to love every big S soul, but not the tiny little one. Because, we don't really want to give them enough attention. So I think that I remember, and it was so beautiful that you were talking about Francis, then, because I think he's one of the, for me, it was the first ecologists that ever came. It was Saint Francis, isn't it? Because he was the one who was trying to protect and create this idea that we have to be protecting the earth, the sun, the moon, the planets, the plants, the animals. We have to love everything. We really have to be changing our idea, and that we are not a sovereign. And even if we are, yes, exactly, Fan of Francis, that's it then. Even if we are here, put on our planet with a little bit more choice and a little bit more ability to develop, then we have to think of ourselves, why is that? And one of the reasons, just one, might be to help those that still need to get there. Be it people, be it the planet. So the fact that Spiritism doesn't do that shows a limitation that we all have as humans. It's a reflex, because the Spiritists are people in the first place, and we have to change as people.
Yeah. Thank you. Well, that is all we have time for now. So let's see if you have any last considerations. So, Anahy.
Pandemic days, to remind you of there is in the YouTube a small movie called Face to Face, that it was one of the last interview BBC journalist Morgan Freeman interviewed Jung, and he asked 2 questions. It's great. I think everybody should watch. But 2 questions that I would like to leave for reflection. One is, what's the origin of evil? And Jung says, the origin of evil is man. We know too little about ourselves, far too little, he says. And we must get in contact with what is still shadow inside of us. Then we can change the world. And the second, he asks, do you believe in God? And then Jung says, believe? I don't believe, I know. So he thinks believing is for the ego. So to know God is another thing. It's something that we try to do through the Spiritist doctrine, and we are trying to do now, this moment, to have an experience of sharing and to know God.
Thank you. Roberto, any last thoughts from yourself?
Yes, I just would like to add regarding the consideration of the Earth supported by a pile of turtles. I read this some days ago, that the last turtle below is supported by the wings of a great bird. That's an intelligent solution, isn't it? Well, so I would like to thank you, Adam, all the team of us for the invitation for this wonderful event, to be here with Dan, Anahy, Natasha, and you, and Thank you. Thank you for this wonderful opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you so much for being with us. Dan, last thoughts from yourself?
Well, with Kardec here over my shoulders, I hope that we will bear in mind that spirituality is for everyday living. It's not something that we only do in our churches, our centers, our mosques, our synagogues. It's not something that only comes into play on Friday evenings, Saturdays, or Sundays, or whatever day we have our mediumistic meeting. It's for every day and for every time. And that true spirituality, real spirituality, is to accept this spiritual reality. And so I hope that we feel awakened and called to the fact that we are immortal beings all the time, even when we're not thinking about it, and that we may set aside some more of our time to think about what does that mean? What does it mean to be an immortal spirit? What does it mean to believe in God? What does it mean to have reincarnation as a wonderful tool and resource for evolution, so that we can move forward and find that which all of us are looking for: fulfillment, purpose, meaning, and joy.
Thank you. And finally, Natasha, your last thoughts.
I'm the last. They already said everything I wanted to say. Unlucky me. I think that just to complement all the beautiful, beautiful thoughts that we just shared now and share throughout this blog is just maybe just go back and following up from what Dan was just saying on the importance of our actions and the importance of putting the responsibility back to us and living spirituality on a day-to-day life, and the importance of us to connecting with ourselves. And I know, modern life is hectic, but we have to find time to just go back, sit down, take a break, look inside. What am I feeling? What am I seeing? What am I doing? And what does my spiritual being needs to do? So hopefully, if we can create good thoughts and good feelings, we can create a good and harmonious environment around us. That is going to be changing us, it's going to be changing the environment, it's going to be changing people around us. And thank you very much. I think I'm going to be saying that as well, to the Kardec Group for the opportunity to be putting this platform for us to be sharing these ideas with everyone that is online listening to us. And I hope that the message goes across.
It did, very firmly. Thank you so much. So let's say a big thank you and goodbye. I'll put them all backstage. Don't run away. So thank you so much, Anahy Fonseca, Roberto Watanabe, Dan Assisi, and Natasha Aragão, for everything that you've brought to us today. And well, ladies and gentlemen, that is now the end of our event. So again, if you did not have the opportunity to watch all 4 blocks of this event, you can find blocks 1, 2, 3, and in a few minutes, block 4 on the Kardec Group Facebook and YouTube channels. Please come to the Kardec Group channels, because we're the ones who've been organizing this. And again, if you want to contact us at any point, Kardec Group, you can contact us via our website, www.kardec.org.uk. You can email us, office@kardec.org.uk, or find us on any of the social media platforms shown right there. Of course, we must say a really big thank you again to our friends of Amigos de Luz for their 2 videos. Say a big thank you to, who else do we need to say thank you to? We need to say thank you to Thomas Gregory and Frederico Gouveia for their music. Thank you to all these wonderful supporters, to BUS, the Irish Federation, Amigo Espírita TV, Spiritist Network, EspiritismoNet, and International Council for restreaming this event on their YouTube channels. So sorry for those people who were expecting something in Portuguese. This event has been in English. And thank you to all these other groups who've been helping as well. Please, please, please go to our website, find out more about the Joanna Giangeli's translation project, about our High Five charity campaign as well. Oh, and there's a few more people who I really must say thank you to. I need to say a really big thank you to Val and Ana Paula, who have been helping backstage during the event. I also need to say thank you to Anne Sinclair and Umberto Schubert, who have also been part of the organizing team of SPiritismx 2021. And I must say a even bigger thank you to Val, who's sitting downstairs, who's been helping so much over the past, 3-4 months that we've been planning this, helping with inspiration, with planning, with organization, with everything, really. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's just for me to say once more, thank you everyone for being with us. Thank you, keep safe, take care, and please subscribe so that we can see you again soon. Bye-bye.